In 1848, the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments was signed. It was signed by 62 women and 38 men, all of whom which were relatively influential. It was signed at the Seneca Falls Convention in New York. The host of this convention was Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and there were several things that led up to this convention materializing. One of these things was actually a convention in London, and this convention was an abolitionist convention. It was on whether or not slavery was ethical. And one topic at this convention was whether or not they were going to let women in. And at the time, women had played a huge role in abolition, and a lot of women were really infuriated that when they were let in with less stature and rights than men. So, this produced a group of angry women, one of which was Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who went back home and decided it was time to take action. She ended up setting up a convention of her own in 1848, which I already said. And at this convention, they discussed women's suffrage rights. Now, some background on Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was born in 1815. She was born into an affluent family, and her father was a lawyer. This ended up playing a role in who she became, because, due to her father being a lawyer, she heard a lot about social issues that were going on, and since she was educated, she could make her own interpretation on the things that she heard. So her father would often talk to people at night, and she would just sit around and listen. And through sucking up all this information through listening and becoming educated, and being able to have her own thoughts and opinions on what was going on in the world around her, she ended up becoming a very, very well-known abolitionist and suffragist. Something that kick-started this was when she married Henry Stanton in 1840, and for their honeymoon, they went to London. When they went to London is when she was actually not allowed to take part in the convention that was going on, and this was one of the things that spurred her to host the Seneca Falls Convention. On top of being a super, super influential person in the suffragist movements, she had her roots in the abolition movements, and she played a key role in a lot of things that came out of that movement. Although Elizabeth is mostly famed for her Declaration of Rights, she ended up, after the Seneca Falls Convention, going on to write many more speeches and collaborating with a lot of other influential women in the suffragist movement. Her famed Declaration of Sentiments was structured a little bit like the Declaration of Independence, and it was intentionally done so in order to catch the ears of many Americans. The Declaration of Sentiments went like this: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Whenever any of the government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of those who suffer from it to refuse allegiance to it, and to insist upon the institution of a new government, laying its foundation on such principles, the organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness." When a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of the women under this government, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to demand the equal station to which they are entitled. Man has endeavored in every way that he could to destroy her confidence in her own powers, to lessen her self-respect, and make her willing to lead a dependent and abject life. Now, in view of his entire disenfranchisement of one half the people of this country, their social and religious degradation in view of the unjust laws above mentioned, and because women do feel themselves aggrieved, oppressed, and fraudulently deprived of their most sacred rights, we insist that they have immediate admission to all the rights and privileges which belong to them as citizens of the United States.